Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, February the 4th, 2020. I am Bhavin there with the details. Governor General Her Excellency Susan Duggan called for all Vincentians to work together in the interest of SVG as she delivered her first throne speech, declaring the 5th session of the 10th Parliament open on Monday afternoon for the presentation of the 2020 budget. The Governor General gave recognition to her predecessor, the late Sir Frederick Ballantyne, whose footsteps she said she will work hard to try to follow. A minute silence was observed in the House yesterday in Sir Frederick's honor. The new Governor General outlined the developments currently taking place in SVG, which she said are helping to improve the lives of Vincentians.
Seek spiritual renewal as we thank Almighty God for His grace and favor. We must be renewed in our commitment to our families and communities, to nation building, to our Caribbean, to our hemispheric neighbors, and to our world. We must also renew our commitment to our individual development, advancement, health and wellness, and come to a deeper appreciation of how all of this fits within the larger enterprise of national development. As I close, I ask for God's continued and abundant blessings upon our nation and our people. Honorable members, I pray that you will seek the guidance of the Almighty as you deliberate on the matters before you.
The Governor General further noted that despite many challenges locally, regionally, and internationally, her government has done well and looks forward to continued progress in all sectors.
The strengthening of our democratic institutions in the context of a rapidly changing socio-economic and technological environment. The suite of legislation proposed during this financial year includes the Public Service Bill, which has as its main objective the promotion of transparency in the functioning of the various services commissions, as well as the fostering among public officers of a deeper understanding of their rights and responsibilities as they serve the people.
Her Excellency also spoke of SVG's historic accomplishment as the smallest nation ever to gain a seat as a non-permanent member on the United Nations Security Council, which she says speaks volumes. Minister of Finance Camila Gonzalez is at this time presenting the 2020 budget, which he said is ambitious, people-centered, and one which will set the pace for developments in St. Vincent and Grenadines for the next decade. This year's budget amounts to $1,186,251,151. The Finance Minister said Budget 2020 covers all aspects that will benefit all Vincentians.
Estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 2020 is a large book filled with dry numbers, but the numbers tell a compelling story. They tell the story of a government investing in education, health, and the well-being of its people. A story of a government making us more resilient against future natural disasters and climate change. A story of empowering young people and caring for the elderly. A story of rebuilding and modernizing our infrastructure. And a story of making ambitious plans for the future. The book is the latest chapter of an ongoing multi-year plan to accelerate the people-centered transformation of the economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This chapter of that development narrative is an exciting one. This budget speech will attempt to summarize the ambitious plans that this government has and continues to have for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
The Finance Minister says, though some persons, including the opposition, may say that it is an election budget, he begs to differ, as it is all parts of the government's economic transformation for SVG.
We are proposing capital expenditure of $310 million, a number that has never been proposed at the beginning of any year in our history, or spent by year's end. Successfully implementing such a capital program will be challenging, but it can be done. Of course, the jaded, the jaundiced, and the nattering naysayers will scoff at this ambition. Those in perpetual political paralysis will scream election budget, or assail our vision for the coming decade as unattainable. Our response to those elements, indeed our response to all Vincentians with eyes to see and ears to hear, is to view our accomplishments and listen closely to how and why we believe that the ambition of Budget 2020 is not simply a wish, but a detailed and achievable plan of action.
Minister Gonzalez further noted that his government delivered as promised in the 2019 budget and will do the same for 2020.
Drilling 3 wells and moving us that much closer to achieving our renewable energy ambitions. Last year, we said that we would find major hotel brands with whom to partner on our planned hotels in Diamond and Mount Win. Today, all of St. Vincent and the Grenadines knows that we have secured deals with the Holiday Inn Express and the Marriott International Resort. We committed to beginning a well-regulated, export-oriented medicinal cannabis industry. We kept that commitment. Last year, we pledged to relocate the vulnerable elderly population of the Louis Punnett home to a modern, upgraded facility. This year, those residents are safer, healthier, and happier in a new home. We promised to begin the rollout of a program of closed-circuit television cameras to monitor our streets and enhance police surveillance. This year, 200 cameras are being installed on poles and buildings, acting as both a crime deterrent and a crime-fighting tool in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
In his response to the budget presentation, Opposition Leader Dr. Godwin Friday said it is all promises in an election year, which the government will not be able to fulfill. Dr. Friday further described the 2020 budget as old wine in own wild bottles, with a lot of repetition from the 2019 budget presentation. He said over the years the government failed to generate enough economic growth for the country.
Promises that it seems to me that the minister aims to reinvent St. Vincent and the Grenadines this year, in a single year. In other words, what he and his predecessor failed to do in nearly 20 years in government, 20 years in power. Some will say 20 long wasted years. And I might agree with that. He is telling us now, Mr. Speaker, and he wants us to believe that he will accomplish this year. Why it not so serious? And Madam Mr. Speaker, it would be funny.
The opposition leader claimed the government simply does not have the money to carry out most of its planned programs for 2020 and needs to be more upfront with the people.
This is clear because the figures in the estimate show, as I said, that he doesn't know where he's going to get $205.3 million. He simply does not know where this chunk of his proposed expenditure for all the programs and all the wonderful things that he's promising to do to reinvent St. Vincent and the Grenadines in 2020. He doesn't know where that large chunk of money is coming from. It's a lot of money for a poor country. 17% of the overall budget. He doesn't know where it's coming from. That's about 40.5%, Mr. Speaker, of the proposed total of the capital receipts of $506.3 million. That's a big hole. So it's bigger than most of the potholes, and some of them I'll show you a little later on. Most of the potholes that the Minister of Transport has to fix from time to time.
Dr. Friday said with the country's debt-to-GDP ratio above the recommended level, standing at 74%, suggests tougher times ahead, noting that the government cannot rely on borrowing.
10-year-old school child knows that it doesn't make sense to essentially always be borrowing to meet your needs. At some point, somebody's going to say, pay me back. Unless, of course, you are a big, powerful country, richest country in the world like the United States. That 10-year-old child knows that if you make the country poorer by essentially borrowing and spending more than you can manage, or you don't know where it's coming from, eventually all the people in the country will feel it. Perhaps maybe accepting those people who they might be politically connected and privileged, so they're insulated from some of those pains that the rest of us feel. But it will affect even those that the government claim to love so much. But our people are not, they're not fools, Mr. Speaker. They've been following this for quite some time. And we have been at pains to explain how some of these things affect them. Because they are not just accounting or political points that you're trying to score. These are things that affect people in their real, everyday lives.
The 2020 fiscal package will see no new taxes. However, the government proposed to institute moderate increases to some user fees across the public service and additional fees for new services to be offered by various ministries and departments. This was pointed out by the Minister of Finance, Camilo Gonzalez, in his presentation of the 2020 budget yesterday. He said the increase in the fees will include maritime and medical services.
Of 8% is quite low. In an effort to make a marginal improvement to this ratio, the government proposes moderate increases to several hospital, laboratory, and dental fees paid by private patients.
There will also be increases in passport fees as well as for extended stays in the country.
And immigration and will be increased in 2020. These are the fees paid by overstayers, by persons seeking an extension of their stay, and for new passports. During the 2019 fiscal year, the government entered into a new agreement with Canadian Banknote for a comprehensive upgrade of the hardware and software required for the smooth operation and services and for the introduction of a 48-page e-passport which has enhanced security features. While passports for adults will go from $150 to $200. Overstayers fees and extension of stay fees will be increased from $25 each to $100 and $75 respectively.
The finance minister said, he noted that there will be improvements to the police stations, concessions for tour buses, and in the agriculture sector.
Well over 200 young entrepreneurs in 2020, with cash grants ranging from $3,000 to $40,000. The young micro-entrepreneur might be a fashion designer in need of a sewing machine, a barber in need of some clippers, a food processor in need of packaging materials, or any number of other creative and original business pursuits. Our prime clients will be screened and shepherded by the Center for Enterprise Development and Invest SVG, and will also be eligible to occupy space in one of the 3 pilot prime community enterprise zones, small retail and service spaces that will be located in various communities nationwide.
There will be an increase in wages for public servants and an increase in the minimum wage for domestic workers. Meanwhile, opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday said he is not surprised no taxes were included in the budget this year. However, the added fees will still be costly to Vincentians.
Event. I wasn't surprised, Mr. Speaker. If it's one thing I could have written in advance of the budget debate, is to say that this being an election year, it's very unlikely that the Minister of Finance was going to raise taxes this year. So, Mr. Speaker, so here we go again. Yesterday, the Minister of Finance stood before this hallowed chamber in this honorable house, before the people gathered here, and since it's broadcast live, before all the people of our blessed nation who chose to watch. And with a straight face, Mr. Speaker, he made promise after promise that he knows full well he will not keep. The biggest, of course, is the promise to spend $11 million in capital projects. Even he thought that was reaching a bit far. Not because only of the implementation issues, having enough aggregate in one of the things talked about, or skilled personnel, but also because they don't have the money.
Though SVG and other countries in the region are considered to be at low risk of getting the coronavirus, Minister of Health, Wellness and the Environment Luke Brown said the health authorities will remain on high alert. Currently, there is no direct flights from China, the epicenter of the virus, to SVG. The health minister, however, explained that there is a great deal of screening done at all ports of entry here and in other countries worldwide, and encouraged persons to remain vigilant.
Somebody doesn't just wake up in China and then arrive in St. Vincent and the Grenadines 5 minutes after. In most cases, they'd have to pass through one country or another. They could pass through Canada, for instance. They could pass through the United States of America, for instance. And in these jurisdictions, there are screening procedures in place that would help essentially to identify any person who is perhaps suffering from an illness associated with contracting the coronavirus. And therefore, if we're going to stop them at that stage, and on top of that, we have our own mechanisms in St. Vincent, you could perhaps get the impression that it will be, that this is the reason why people are talking about there being a low risk to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But notwithstanding there being a low risk to St. Vincent, it's not an invitation for us to become complacent. The fact that we are serious about protecting public health is reflected by this press conference which we have organized, and maybe this might not be the only conference of this nature. We may provide either through another conference or through press releases, updates from time to time on any material deemed important to put out in the public domain.
Chief Medical Officer Dr. Simone Keyser Beach said while the ministry continues to beef up its surveillance, it is important for all hands to be on deck.
However, we have port health officers at other airports, and we have been training, working with our immigration, our customs, Coast Guard, our police, all of those other public officers have been trained and are informed in terms of being able to detect. So if somebody boards a ship, say in Wallabu, okay, the officer knows what they should be looking for and what they need to do in terms of who to inform. So that's our method of increasing our capacity to ensure as much as is possible that our borders remain secure. And then also, as I said before, we are putting our faith in our brother to look out. So if a water taxi notices that somebody's on a ship and they're not well, we would expect them to inform the port health officer or the immigration officer.
Dr. Beach said while there is no case of the coronavirus here, she said it is important for members of the public to follow certain procedures.
However, I came back from China. I was a student there. I have a cough and a cold within the last 14 days, and you know that person's in your house. Do not bring that person in the minivan to your district clinic, because at that time you will be exposing every other person in that vehicle, and they will then be capable of, if it's that, exposing every other person they come into contact with. So what we are asking is that you understand, you recognize who might be at risk, you stay in your home, and you call your healthcare provider. Be that the Ministry of Health, be that the A&E, and numbers at A&E are 456-1185 and 456-1955. We would also be circulating numbers for all of your district clinics, your polyclinics, and your district hospitals. And when you call that number, you will be instructed as to what you should do.
Welcome back. Literacy Week commenced yesterday, Monday, January the 6th, and several schools have planned a number of activities to encourage reading among their student population. The St. Mary's Roman Catholic School held a Hats Off to Reading March yesterday, with the students wearing hats to celebrate reading.
Students and teachers of the St. Mary's Roman Catholic School marched on Monday to kickstart their Literacy Week of activities as they seek to raise awareness about the importance of reading. Today a reader, tomorrow a leader. Reading is for everyone is the theme under which the school is observing Literacy Week. For the march, students used their hats to showcase forms of reading, how it can be done, and what can be derived from reading. Literacy Coordinator Carla Jalisu said the school continues to encourage reading among students and stressed why it is critical at this time.
I want to show the children that by reading, they can develop their leadership skills. They'd be able to become the men and women of tomorrow who are great leaders in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Jalisu says with the advent of technology, some students may get distracted, and it is important that parents continue to support their children to read even more with the use of their gadgets.
As there are great audiobooks that children can read and enjoy, and they'll be more interesting to read, not just from a hardcover book, but from their own gadget. It'll be interesting for them to realize that there are many reading games online that they can use to strengthen their reading while having fun.
Some of the activities planned for Literacy Week at the St. Mary's School includes a class poster day competition, reading stories by teachers, and character day, which will depict professions under a specific discipline. One student showed off her reading skills by reading one of her favorite storybooks.
When fireflies are lighting up the night, it is time for little bodies to snuggle up tight.
Another student who loves reading spoke of his intended career.
I like to travel and explore different countries, and in the air I feel like I'm like a bird. So I would like to be a pilot.
I guess you love reading.
Yeah. I read Hardy Boys, Wimpy Kid, and much more stories.
Literacy Week at the St. Mary's Roman Catholic School will end on 7th February 2020 with a presentation to the students on the importance of reading. For SVG-TV News, Larissa Pogsley-Kidd.
The Brighton Methodist School today opened its upgraded library. The project to refurbish and restore the library was undertaken by the Hands Across the Seas organization and the Mustique Charitable Foundation. 10 students of the school successfully completed the Hands Across the Seas library training and was today presented with their library badges and certificates to assist with the management of the school library. Principal of the school, Bernadette Lachman, said that when she took up the position as the principal at the school and evaluated the reading level of the students, she was very disturbed, as many students were reading way below their level. Lachman said she and her staff decided to do everything they can to improve the students' reading level.
It was a troubling concern, and from that moment, as a staff, we set out to make this reading level, to increase and to up the reading level of each child. We started a few programs, and I'm happy today to say that I know that this program, the library program, is really going to be a tremendous assistance, help to upgrading this reading level. I must say that I was happy when Mrs. Pompey, Yvette Pompey, came to the school. She visited the school and she asked if we would be interested in upgrading our library. I said, thank God, this is an opening for us, right? So Mrs. Pompey explained about Hands Across the Sea, who usually assists with upgrading of libraries in school. We quickly jumped at the idea and told her we are on board.
Project Director of the Mustique Charitable Foundation, Dulari Malcolm, encouraged the students to utilize the upgraded library service, noting that reading is important to help them to achieve their future career goals.
Students and what you're going to do with the library. So I want to say to you all, reading is important. It doesn't matter what you want to be when you grow up. If you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a farmer, if you want to be a teacher, you want to be an accountant, you need to be able to read. And you need to know basic reading, the foundation. So then once you learn the foundation of reading, you can go out and read anything, whether it's in a book, whether it's on the computer, whether it's on your cell phone. You need to be able to read. So it's important that you all utilize the library. There are lots of exciting books. Ms. Pompey will go more in detail on the books that are supplied by Hands Across the Sea. Now these are not your regular curricular books. These are books that are supposed to pique your interest to get you to read.
Representative of the Hands Across the Sea, Yvette Pompey, said the students of the Brighton School has no reason to know that their literacy level to be below average, and encourage parents to read along with their children whenever they borrow books at the library. The general public is being reminded that the close season for mammals, which include opossum, manikou, agouti, and reptiles, which include iguana, is February the 1st to the 30th of September. The Forestry Services in the Ministry of Agriculture, Rural Transformation, Forestry, Fisheries, and Industry said any person who hunts or is a member of a party engaged in hunting any protected wildlife, takes or disturbs the eggs or young of any protected wildlife, damage or destroy their nest, have in his possession or control any protected wildlife or part thereof, exposes, offers for sale or purchase any protected wildlife or any part thereof, or the egg or young in guilt is guilty of an offense and is liable to a fine of $2,000. In the case of a second or subsequent offense, to a fine of $4,000 and imprisonment for 1 year according to the Wildlife Protection Act, Chapter 55, Section 17. Persons are also reminded that it is an offense to hunt in any wildlife reserve, forestry reserve, Soca artist Church Problem Child James, who will be represented SVG in the finals of the International Soca Monarch in Trinidad and Tobago, says the more support he gets in the arena on the night of the competition will better his chances to create history for SVG. Last Sunday night, James secured his position in the finals with an outstanding performance in the semi-finals of the competition with his hit Nasty Up. James is back at home briefly and in an interview today, he made it clear that his motivation for entering the competition is not financial, but for his fans and SVG.
And another artist who was speaking and we were like, you know, we didn't really have to do this. I didn't really have to do it if it was about money or winning money. Because when you do the summary or the mathematics between what it takes to do a proper presentation and what you're going to lose by not working on that night. You know, because I could have done like 6-7 shows in Trinidad. That's the nature of the economy. In that one night. You know, and kept the money that I am now forced to spend in my pocket. So when you do the math, I might not have made what the prize money is offering, but it's still a chance. It's only a chance. So I'm not doing it for me or any kind of financial gain. I just saw the opportunity to make history for Senior and Standing Entities in some regard or another. So I was like, you know, I think we deserve it.
Over the years, the Trinidadian crowd at the finals of the International Soca Monarch has been accused of being biased in their support of artists outside of Trinidad and Tobago. James said while he is confident in his skills to deliver on the night of the competition, the support of Vincentians at the event will go a long way.
We need for people to be in the audience, and even if it's out of your character, to conduct yourself as such. You know, we need it because Soca Monarch in Trinidad is very tricky. You could have the biggest song in the world and they love it in parties and in fetes, and when you're competing, if you're not their favorite, they won't move. Because that now becomes a part of it. You know, and there are artists who would place people in the audience to only give them that nudge, that forward, that push, that response. So when anybody else is performing, it's this. You know? So we need that, you need that visual. You can't take it for granted that it's going to be an automatic love because of how huge the song is. I was even joking on the on radio program that I just did an interview on that. It would be nice if you could get like 2 boatloads of our people, the average person who would be in the crowd carrying. You know how also if we could transcend that, if we could get that down there, and I could get my presentation executed, leave everything else up to me.
Sharing some words of wisdom to upcoming artists, James said humility and a quest for a quality product is key.
You know, tone the ego down if you have. I'm not saying that there's ego, but if it exists, it's a big barrier and a big block in terms of advancement. You know, you have to tone that down, because if you feel you know everything, you can't learn because no one knows everything. So some insight could be there for you, but because you're not willing to accept it or look into it, that's something you could have learned to better yourself, but you're not willing to because you're so much of a know-it-all. You have to be very humble, you have to be willing to learn, you have to be able to persevere, you have to, you know, just learn from your mistakes. Don't give up. Don't give up. You got to keep pushing and strive for quality. Talent is easy. Talent is easy, and be intelligent. Quality and intelligence. My new thing that I tell everybody, everybody's talented in some way, shape, or form, but everybody's not smart. In terms of the decisions you make, the people you work with. Educate yourself about the industry and the inner workings of it and how things work. What radio station would not play us because the quality is not good enough, and work on the quality. Don't try to do 10 songs. Invest that money in at least 2 or 3 good quality songs.